outset, let me again congratulate the Research Scholars Forum for initiating this discussion. And I think it is the third or fourth discussion that you have initiated after you assumed the office. I hope that this continues. So it is necessary that whenever there is an important incident taking place at national, international or regional level, we should debate in our department, and I'm happy for the initiative that you have taken. Now coming to the topic, you know that in 1947, when British India was bifurcated into Pakistan and India, the Muslim League leaders who fought for Pakistan were clear that their state would be a theocratic state. But when it comes to India, despite the fact that majority of the Indians, even at that time, were Hindus, our own national leaders, understanding the complexity of Indian society, understanding the multicultural and multi-religious character of India, chose to make India into quote-unquote a secular state. So we have given birth to a kind of a liberal constitution which recognizes all citizens as equal, irrespective of the caste, creed and class. And it recognizes the right of religion, citizens' right to religion, and it also acknowledges the right of the minorities to preserve their culture and customs and practices. Despite all these things which are part of our Indian constitution, in the recent years, I can say, starting from the Ramajanma Bhoomi movement, the India seems to be inching towards a majoritarian rule. A majoritarian rule where some invoking again the name of the particular religion is trying to privilege it over all others, and all its policies are percolated or smeared with some kind of, you can say, communal orientation. I am not going to discuss the contemporary events and implications of this kind of majoritarian rule. I am sure President and my friend will talk about it. But I thought, since I am asked to introduce this first speaker, let me speak to you about some of the important ideological and historical events that became the background for the majoritarian politics today. And here I also feel that we should have a clarity on the concepts when we are using the majority or rule or majoritarian rule. We have to be very clear as to what they mean and how this has evolved in history. It is for that reason I will take first few minutes on theoretical dimension, and then we move to the historical part. The first, if you see, whether it is in the West or in India, in ancient times and medieval period, we had, whether it is in a slave society or feudal societies or the caste-ridden society of India, we see either a monarchy or aristocracy, where a few individuals, because of their birth, they decided the fate of all citizens or all subjects of those countries or kingdoms or empires. There the religion of that king or aristocrats, it was imposed on all. It was imposed on all. So it is not that something happened only in medieval India or thing. It happened even earlier when during ancient India. That period also, you know, the conflicts on religious grounds where Hindu rulers dominated the Buddhists. And also Shaivites and Vaishnavites clashes were there. So this kind of thing was there, and that continued even in medieval period to some extent. A thing between Hindus and Muslims that was there. I am not negating that, and it is something which was there even in the Western societies. Western societies also that the religion played a very important role in medieval Europe, so much so that the political authority was subjected to the dictates of the church. It was there. So in that way, the religion was playing a very important role, controlling all aspects of life, and including the politics and the state. But fortunately, in the West, in Europe, there was a radical change, starting with the Renaissance, then the Reformation, then the scientific and technological innovations that followed, and then you can see the revolutions that followed. All of them have given birth to a new kind of society, which actually privileged the individual over this religion or community bondages. So Europe witnessed a secularization process over hundreds of years. They also fought like us, I think, but there was a secularization process took place for hundreds of years, and that actually led to, confining religion to a private domain. And it ascertained the supremacy of politics. It ascertained the supremacy of the temporal affairs over religious beliefs or the customary practices. So that's why you can see in the West, all philosophers who advocated, they spoke about this one, that religion should be at the background. It cannot be the focus of the modern state, modern nation state. That was the idea. And as again, then you can see, even in practice, it also took the form of liberal democratic states. Liberal democratic states, of course, in these liberal democratic states, they advocated majority rule. But this majority, which they advocated, is not a majority based on religion, or a community, or this ethnicity. It is a majority constituted on a rational grounds. It is a majority which, when they say majority decides, it is acknowledging the fact that there are so many individuals with varied interests. And these people, what is good for them will be decided. Since all cannot come to a conclusion, consensus always, let the majority decide. But the decision is about the temporal affairs, about how to govern the country, what should be done for the welfare of the people, for the development of the things, what kind of policies have to be developed, foreign policy, what should be there, all these kinds of things you debate and discuss. And then choose your own representatives. Choose your own representatives who will govern the state. But when they are doing it, not you are voting there, but voting not on the basis of religion. It's on the basis of a rational understanding or assessment of your own. which is good, which is bad, to analyze, rising above caste, creed, and community, and decide. So this is the majority rule that Western democracies advocated at that point, liberal democracies advocated at that time. And this majority rule should not be confused with majoritarian rule. We need to distinguish between these. Majority rule and majoritarian rule are different. To be frank, when we made a constitution, we also wanted our country to be like the West in thing, and we adopted liberal constitution. We thought of parliamentary form of government, and we gave fundamental rights and all that which happened. That is something which we are familiar with. So in form, it is like a Western democracy, but in content, it could not. It could not emerge as in the West, a secular, liberal, democratic for different historical reasons. And that is what where we need to go into our own Indian history, basically the colonial history. You know, I told you in a nutshell that even in ancient India and medieval India, there were religion played a role. But it doesn't mean that always the people were divided on religion and only religious fights were there. No. Now there is so much of negative propaganda against the Mughals and others. But if you see the medieval history, in this medieval history, the Mughals first fought not against the Hindus, but against other Muslim rulers who were there earlier. They fought, and defeating them, they came to power. And they fought with some Hindu rulers, but many Hindu rulers also supported Mughals. There was a different kind of things. If you see history is very complex. It is not divided on Hindu or Muslim kind of thing. The Hindus fought Hindus, Muslims fought Hindus, and sometimes Muslims fought Muslims. So all kinds of things were there in medieval thing. So it is a very complex thing in that medieval history also. But when the British came, British in its own interest, in its own colonial interest, it actually chose the policy of divide and rule. And for them, the best thing is to narrate a history in a communal this fashion. So they made it all that we study in our textbooks. What is that? Ancient history, Indian history is Hindu, medieval is Muslim, and modern is British, and afterwards. So this is how it has been put. So we have been made to think that on a communal lines that it is so, as if the entire this one was only Hindu, ancient, and medieval was only Muslims dominated, and now the other one. But it is not so. But they did it for their own reasons. But you say, British rule also created some kind of positive impact in the sense that they brought in the ideas of democracy, secularism, and such kind of things, which influenced many of our leaders also. And many religious reformers and Indian leaders influenced by the positive dimension of the Western democracies. They wanted India to be secular like the West. When Raja Mohan Roy fought, he fought with that spirit against the religion. His own religion he fought, not that somebody else fought. The thing is also when it comes to the leaders. Even Jawaharlal Nehru represented that secular trend, Western secular trend. He wanted that. And Bhagat Singh is another. Very, I think very little is known about him, and please read his works. You can see he is the one who stood for a secular socialist republic kind of things. So his own Hindustan Socialist Republican Party included people from all religion. And he was led against making it Hindu-Muslim, that kind of issue. So also Ambedkar also stood against this religion or religious domination and want to secularize the country. so fighting against caste, this one he also said that you need to fight against religious bigotry, which is perpetuating caste. So, but these people could not become dominant for different reasons. Of course, communists and socialists also were advocating this kind of secularism, who wanted a complete disassociation of politics and religion and unite the people of India on a secular lines against the British, rising above religion. But their strength was enhanced. They didn't have that strength to become an hegemonic. And once, actually, it was already, if you see Indian nationalist movement, Indian nationalist movement is no doubt a popular movement, but it always had Hindu orientation. It had a bit of a Hindu orientation starting from Tilak times. But when they said, and it was actually continued even after Gandhi came. But the Hindu orientation which they advocated, people like Tilak and Gandhi advocated, is not communal. They used religion in order to unite people against the British, no doubt about it, but they were not communal. They were liberal Hindus. They understood the need for accommodating all others. So they didn't go against other religions. But the fact is that there was an element of Hindu orientation in this Hindu Indian nationalist movement, which went under the leadership of Gandhi. So that was the dominant phenomenon. Don't think. But that Hindu orientation itself creates a tension. Not, as I told you, they are not communal, but the very fact that you go on using the cow things or about Ramarajya and other things, it creates some kind of apprehension in the minds of the Muslims. Muslims, that is there, you say. So they could not identify themselves completely with the Congress. Hence they formed a Muslim League Party. This thing, yeah. And I think saying that, oh, you are going ahead with the Hindus, it is not, so we have to have our own party. So there is a Muslim League Party came into existence. And along that side, now you see, there is also the Hindu communal parties emerged during this period itself, during the freedom struggle itself, whether it is Hindu Mahasabha or RSS, I think they developed during this period. Whether it is Muslim League or these Hindu communal parties, both of them, more than fighting against the British, they were fighting among themselves. So Hindu Mahasabha or RSS and their ideologues, they started preaching, oh, we all suffered during the medieval period. You know, again taking it from the British history. You are taking it and say communal history, accepting it and say we are all oppressed. Now we want to have a glory. So we want Hindu Rashtra, Akhanda Hindustan. So that kind of things are there in the writings of many of these things, Golwakar and all these people. They wanted that we know, once freedom we get it, the Hindu should dominate. Hindu should dominate over all the others. So that kind of things they are doing it. And that actually give a very fertile ground for the Muslim League to brand Indian nationalist movement as communal, Hindu communal. And they said, we cannot be, our interests cannot be protected in independent India, united India, so we want something, Pakistan. So now you see, both Hindu communalism and Muslim communalism, they actually helped each other. Now each of them blame the other. But the fact is that Hindu communalism helped the Muslim League and Muslim League's communalism helped the Hindu communists. And midway is Congress. Midway is Congress, and Gandhi was trying to negotiate and try to bring all of them together. But a situation came when the contradictions, the communal contradiction became irreconcilable. And there was nobody was ready to accept accept the other. Well, these kind of things. So actually, Gandhi, with his own liberal Hindu orientation, tried to unite and say, and he was liberal enough even to say, Jinnah, you take over and become a prime minister, let India be united. That's the kind of thing. But that is something which our own Congress leaders did not accept. They didn't accept. So then they breaking, and there was no way that that communal tensions or the communal rights which took place was such that it could not be, their peace could not be established, and India then the British proposed this policy of bifurcation, and which even the Congress leaders accepted, and Gandhi was also forced to accept it. That is how now you see the kind of things which happened. Now you see the kind of things which developed afterwards. Now when the bifurcation took place and others, and at that time both of them suffered. That is a very artificial bifurcation of the country. And here both Hindus and Muslims suffered because of that movement. You are moving thousands and lakhs of people from one part of the country to another side. So all of them suffered. But this tragedy of that thing remained in the minds of people. And both could not forget. That's why you can see many of us who are victims of that partition. So still they think, oh, all is because of Pakistan, all because of Muslims. And that kind of thinking is very much there in the minds of the people in India and others. That was oriented. But another important thing which happened was near Gandhi's this one. Gandhi, even after the partition, he was legal. He was thinking, let us bifurcate, when you have accepted bifurcation, let us do justice to both sides, and so that you separate without any kind of feeling. So he was ready to give some kind of compensation to the Muslims. And that is something which could not be tolerated by Hindu communists themselves. You see, the opposition to Gandhi did not come from Jinnah or the Muslim communalists. It came from Hindu communalists. And influenced by them, then one of the leaders, Godse, he thought Gandhi is appeasing. Appeasing the Muslims, so he shot him dead. He shot him dead, this one. So it is Gandhi, a Hindu, was killed by Godse, a Hindu. That is one thing which you should know if you are to understand these politics. So it is here that at that time Gandhi's popularity was such I can speak. So killing of Gandhi actually led to, you can say, demoralizing. I mean, the rightist wings, RSS, Hindu, Mahasabha, all of them lost credibility. They were banned and they were held responsible for the death of Gandhi. So they all went back. That they could not play an important role during the freedom, at the time of independence. So the others got an opportunity and they became part of the Constitutional Assembly and they created the Indian Constitution, which was more or less secular, may not be in the Western sense. But they created that. So, and you have to understand that most of the leaders who are there in the Constitutional Assembly are Hindu leaders. It is not, but they are not Hindutva leaders. That difference is something to understand. And then comes the thing. But once we got independence, I come to this last point. What has happened? Though we proclaimed secular in a way that India never followed secularism in the Western sense. In the Western sense, which says non-recognition of any supernatural entity and making religion a private affair and not allowing it to become a part, to play any role in public, that was never accepted or followed. In a sense, we followed what we called Indian secularism. Indian secularism, its ideologies goes like this, that we recognize all religions. We give importance to all religions. We have a thing, so we are not against any religion, we are a thing. We recognize the truth of all religions, and that is basically Gandhian kind of thing, which was subsequently developed by Radhakrishnan. This idea. But this one is, in sense, Indian secularism, if you see from Western perspective, if following one religion is theocracy, encouraging all religions is multi-theocracy. It is a multi-theocratic. You encourage all religiosities. And said, yes, you also do one, you also do. So, in practice, this Indian secularism led to a kind of two aspects. One is that in many of the public things, Hindu kinds of things, rituals continued, even in public affairs. So when you open, when you inaugurate a building or even space research program or anything, it will be started with Vedic mantras. Hindu things will come. Right? That kind of Hindu kind of things were very much followed. At the same time, there is also an appeasement of the minorities. So there is two kinds of things took place. Nehru was, this Congress party played with this theme. On the one hand, it didn't stop religion, Hindu playing a role in public life, and at the same time, in the name of secularism, they started appeasing the conservative among the minorities. So it is not that they have done any great good for the ordinary people, middle class or lower middle class, or the workers belonging to Muslims. They didn't do anything. But the religious aspect of it they encouraged. And they continue to encourage the hold of the mullahs and others over, or the elites, nobles, over the rest of the Muslim population, and through them get the support for votes. So that also contributed. And this kind of appeasement went to the highest extent with this highest speech with Rajiv Gandhi. And Rajiv Gandhi is one who once, on the one hand, rejected that court judgment, Shaban case. It rejected the court judgment, reversed it in order to appease this privileged Muslim elite, and which went against the masses, this thing. And on the other hand, he also opened the gates of this Ayodhya, Ram Janmabhoomi. You see the kind of things that they played. So there was a thing, he played a double game. On the one hand, appeasing these Hindu sentiments and appeasing the Muslim elite sentiments. And that actually created a thing. So even that kind of thing started even with Indira Gandhi's second term. Indira Gandhi in their first term always appeased the Muslims, the minorities, in the name of for getting votes. But in the second term, she protected herself as a Hindu leader. That is how she fought against the Kashmir and also in Punjab. So that's the kind of Hindu orientation, Ma Kali. That kind of things was, image was created, and which Rajiv Gandhi did it. And that actually created the foundations. They created this appeasement of the religiosities, actually encouraged the BJP. BJP at the time, for some time, it played with Gandhian socialism. But the foundation for this kind of politics was given to them by the Congress party itself. And BJP took advantage of it. She took advantage of it and started this Ramajanmabhoomi movement, mobilized the people, divided them, and thing. So that is how it started. And you have created a Frankenstein, and this Frankenstein cannot be stopped. That is how the Frankenstein has now marginalized the Congress party and all other parties in India, and it has now emerged as a single largest party which has influence all over. And this is the party which is not just thinking about secular temporal affairs, it is something which is dictating terms to us as to what we have to wear, what we have to eat, and what we can do or cannot do. And this is where I think it is for others to debate on that. I will stop it here.
Okay. First of all, I offer my congratulations to the History Scholars Forum of Political Science Department for organizing important current event to be meaningfully debated in the public so that university students should know what is going on. So my congratulations to all of you. But from the panelists, what I expected actually, unfortunately, did not come out quite clearly. Srikanth has indicated the history of the ideological struggle or the development in India. So that has indicated something, but behind what is visible, what are the invisible things which have contributed to the communal clashes in each state? And then
Srikanth would like to respond.
I thought this is too vast a topic.
Yeah.
And hence I thought I will confine to some parts of it and leave others to speak for what is left out. But if you feel that certain things are not discussed, yes, definitely there is a thing. When we say institution, this majoritarianism, according to me, should not be seen only in terms of Modi or BJP coming to power, advocating politics, invoking religion. Yes, they are there as an institutional, they are as a party, as an ideology. But behind them, the kind of things which is happening here is something which should worry us. There is a fusion of party and government. You can see the party is government, government is party. That is kind of thing is happening. And at the other level, now you can see the way that the difference between ministers and bureaucracy disappearing. The difference between media and government disappearing. And the difference between NGOs, or you can say the industry, budgets, or businessman and government disappearing. Now there is a fusion. This majoritarianism which we speak, the dangerous thing is a fusion. Fusion of a party, government, bureaucracy, media, and monopoly houses, and all fringe elements who are not at all a part of any of the political parties. But there are fringe elements of different kinds. Everybody rising and they are talking in the name of Hindutva or nationalism, and everybody becoming important. And they are all forces which are not part of a polity, but they are external forces becoming important. So if you say institutionalized, I want you to see from that angle. And that is the most dangerous. It is easy to fight a party, but it is difficult to fight BJP not because it is a party or a powerful party, because it is supported by all other elements. It is supported, it has the support of the bureaucracy, it has the support of election commission, it has the support of media and others. And if you ignore that it is only a political party came to power because of its manifesto, that is delusion. We don't know ABCs of politics, as how elections take place. Just because it is elected, it doesn't mean that it is democratic. Hitler also got elected in a democratic way. Afterwards, our coming to power, he had institutionalized everything, and everything came under their control. So we have to be aware of the experience of other parts of the country and the world, when assessing it, the future. But at the same time, I thought one of the things which I thought I should tell you is about polarization. Yes, the government is very much interested in polarization. Don't say that it is BJP's nationalist party and not appealing to Hindu. Everybody knows. It is a kind of self-deception if we say that it is not a Hindutva party appealing to Hindu sentiments in order to come to power. We know that whenever it wants to come to power, then it will incite communal passions. And every communal right increases the vote of BJP. So there is a I think it is happening, we know that, this one. But at the same time, communal, I also say that the communal parties are there even among the Muslims and others. They also use the same argument in order to polarize people in the name of religion. That is also taking place. But at the same time, I should also tell that the people in India, in spite of all that, there are segments of, thing where people are not could not be fully divided. They want to unite all Hindus, but Hindus themselves, all Hindus don't support Hindutva. This is the thing. So there is opposition against that, opposition, condemnation of that kind of party itself. And at the same time, even among the Muslims, this idea is that all Muslims are conservative. All Muslims have studied in, what is that? Mohallas. Madrasas. No. Not. There are many progressive Muslims, educated progressive Muslims who are able to think beyond religion. And they are ready to fight. Only problem is that we are not able to give them a forum. Our parties are opposition parties, whether it is the left, center, they have betrayed. Otherwise, people are not people. The way that they fought, it is not any political party which fought against British. Sorry, BJP. BJP came with a thumping majority in 2019, but it could not ensure implementation of many of its things because of the popular movements. Democratic popular movements where we stopped. Hindus, Muslims, everybody joined and fought. Youth played an important role in fighting. So it is, I find that polarization, though it is attempted, it is institutionalized through different forums, still there is a mindset where the people are not yet fully become communal. There lies, I feel, a kind of hope for
Okay.
I just want to say here,
So you
the target,
ask some more questions?
yeah, only on this. The target here is not Hindi or local languages. Their main target is to deprive access to English by ordinary people. You see, Amit Shah's son, he has done his BTech in a Nirma University, a private university, in English medium. The mission is to deprive the people, ordinary people, this access to English. All the elites, whether they are Gujaratis or this one in Hindi heartland and other, they will send their children to English medium schools only. But they don't want ordinary people to study English. And they create this hatred also. Oh, English speaking people. As if English speaking people is a bad people. English, it is, I am telling you, it is not Hindi which united India against the British.
Yeah.
It is English. It is the English which was the medium which brought together different people from different parts of India to interact with one another and create this nationalist movement. So English contributed immensely for the nationalist movement.
So
This is one important thing which we keep in mind, that hatred against saying that it is foreign. As if you don't send your children to foreign countries. The moment there is an opportunity, you will send your children to America and other places. But your other children, you understand this point. See, one of the important things, I'm talking in general about fascism, it is a fusion of technical knowledge with the so-called obscurantist knowledge. At one level, you don't completely deny science and technology. At one level, for a practical purpose, you want technology and other things. But another level, you promote obscurantism, superstitions and everything. These two things go together. People don't have scientific thinking, they only know technical knowledge, how to operate different machines, computers and others. But when it comes to mindset, it is the highly conservative, superstitious, obscurantist mindset. And this is the fusion. That's why you will see among the people who support BJP, you will find that many of them are from technical background. How easy is it to do that? All NRIs and others who are in a technical position, they are in very good positions. But when their mindset comes, it is obscurantist. It is very narrow, very parochial. This is what they want to fuse. This is the fusion. And that fusion is the most dangerous. That creates robots amongst us. Robots who can be manipulated, who can be instructed, and we just do that without even thinking of it. That is what you say. They say, all of you make Ganta, then this one disappears. We follow that. Because we don't even think rationally. And killing that rational spirit is one of the important things which is necessary for the growth of majoritarianism. You have to kill that rationality among the Hindus. And they have to think only in terms of religion. That is necessary. But fortunately, that is not happening. Fortunately, it is not happening because Hindu is not it is not a monolithic religion. There are too many sects. So many divisions, they are all divided along caste lines, regional lines and others. So they cannot be forced to become one. So that is where they are finding it difficult. If you see, BJP's main enemy is not so much Muslims, but the secular Hindus. Secular Hindus are the most target of this one. They make this one all secular people. Secular and communists. That is their targets. So they are more angry with the Hindus who did not follow them than the Christians or Muslims who are upright.
So he is trying to bring development in Northeast or in India. So when it comes to democracy or democratic rights, political rights, it's somehow being taken away, right? So this does not only happen in India. We can see the example of Bangladesh or Rwanda, for example. Rwanda has been a chaotic country during the 90s. But after it came back to democracy, although development are there, but no rights for you. So can we also argue that India also is moving towards that? And while I'm speaking, it looks like India is in the framework of a theocratic state. Can India become a theocratic state?
Yeah, let's say their possibilities are there and also obstacles are. Okay. One is, as I told you, Hindus is not a monolithic religion. It is by its nature itself is pluralist. And Hindus are divided along regional lines and caste lines. Now you are talking about, BJP becoming, gaining Hindu vote. But you see, South, In Tamil Nadu, it is nowhere there. In Kerala, it is not there. In Andhra Pradesh, it is not there. Telangana, marginal. They are all Hindu dominant areas only. It's not that. Just because it is Hindu, they wanted to do the same politics there also. But the people did not get carried away by it. They didn't vote for it. Except in Karnataka, you didn't find any of in the northern states, southern states restriction. So also in Orissa, so also in Bengal. In spite of the fact that they are all Hindu dominant states, the Hindus are in majority, but here BJP could not come to power or BJP could not make inroads into that. That is what we have to understand, that it is not so easy for them to do it. Though they will make an effort. They will make an effort in different ways, create communal conflicts, thinking power to do that, and corrupt with money and other things, all effort they will do. But still it is difficult. That is one part of it. But that doesn't mean that they cannot create a problem, because for coming to central government, 4 states are enough. 4 northern states, if you have a majority in UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and another state, then that is enough for them to come to power. Because they have more MPs there, sending that. So it is not necessary that they have to become entire India to do that. So pockets they will focus on that. Pockets they will effectively work. So they effectively work and channelize all their resources with the help of government, media and everybody and ensure that they get the number. So that kind of thing will happen. But at the same time, as I told you, there is, though the parties have become corrupt, the parties have degenerated and got marginalized, the people did not give up the fight. So it is who are the people who made the government withdraw farm laws? It is the people. It is the farmers who fought. Who stopped this kind of a government going ahead with the NRC? It is the women and also youths. They fought a pitched battle there in different parts and stopped that. So it is not that that the people have become communal and they can be made. Yes, you find in social media so much of communalization there, but you read them, you will also find many Hindus talking against Hindutva and also many Muslims talking against this narrow Muslim fanatics. So both are there. So there is the difficulty for them. But efforts they will make. They continue to make efforts towards that which is necessary for them.
They may not succeed, but all these attempts would affect the unity and integrity of India.
You know, nationalism is one of the important weapons in the hands of the political elite to stick to the power. It's very interesting. If you see the background of BJP was formed of Janasangh, and Janasangh has its roots in RSS, Hindu Mahasabha. During the freedom struggle, these are the people who never fought. Who never fought. You don't see them in jails. You didn't find them anywhere fighting against the British. They were all fighting against the Muslims only. Never fighting against and pitched battle like others. So here, but the same people, they think, you know, even Veer Savarkar, he apologized in order to get out of the prison. So such kind of people who never fought British and never suffered like others, now they are criticizing Congress. But Congress people, all of them were in jail. Gandhi, Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel and everybody was in jail and suffered. How many of these people have suffered in jail? But now they have become the votaries of Hindu nationalism, and they project as if they are far more nationalist than anybody else in this is there a country. And this nationalism has become a weapon for them to hit at all people. So anybody who criticizes BJP or says anything against you is anti-national, and to me you can see many of them say, go to Pakistan.
Listen, those things are